Отже, ми розпочинаємо останню панель цього дня, і, як і говорили, вона буде присвячена роботі з аудиторією. В ній ми хочемо представити спікерку Наталію Лібет, яка буде модерувати цю панель. І оскільки в нашій панелі беруть участь як і українські, так і міжнародні кінематографісти, то мова цієї панелі буде англійською. В доступі онлайн також вона буде. Я сподіваюся, можливо, коли ми будемо викладати потім її для широкого доступу, ми зробимо чи субтитри, чи буде розшифровка для тих, хто не говорить англійською мовою. Але, в принципі, сподіваємось, що вся професійна українська кіноспільнота вільно володіє англійською. Тож, Наталія, тобі слово. І я передаю мікрофон колегам, щоб ви могли далі обмінюватися. So yeah, guys, Natalia will start. So all conference will be English. I just represent it to our online audience.
Доброго вечора. Hi everyone. So the language of this discussion is English, and I would like to introduce you our speakers. This is Mark Wілkінсон, a film director and one of the Kyivans. This is Chad Grasіa. He is a director, film director, producer, and maybe also Kyivan. And this is Ілько Gladштейn. He is the everything for us. He is our Kino 42. He is a film producer, and that's enough. So we start as a theme, the subject of our discussion is the audience and where we can watch films. And we start with Ilya.
So what should we start with? There should be a question, no? Okay.
The big question is where we can watch films, and do we have an easy access to the facilities, and how safe they are?
Yeah, so the question is very easy, you know, where to watch films, and you can always watch a film on your smartphone and on your laptop. It's always available, but films were not invented for that, you know. And I think all of us are big fans of the original experience of watching films in the cinema, which is a collective experience and which is only possible there. So the directors and producers, the sound producers, the color correctors, they all work to create this special experience for the audience, and people who watch it differently lack a lot, even though it's more comfy, but still there is something in this collective experience of watching a film in a big screen, something magical and something that will last, I think. Even though the cinematic screening, cinema screening market is falling down since 2006, I think. And places like this one will not exist, unfortunately, in 20 years. So big multiplexes will not survive, but small independent cinemas will, because they will only have this special, unique opportunity to give like a sensitive and sensual and розумний, smart experience of watching a film and discussing it. And that's why I decided to open a cinema in 2019. And it also followed by a series of closures of 3 Kyivian cinemas, like Cinema Kyiv, Ukraine, and Kino Panorama were closed within like 2 years maybe of 2018. And there was just a lack of places to show films, because me being a producer, I also faced the problem to have a place to distribute my film and also to distribute other films for me as a distributor. So that was my idea, to open a cinema, but also it was an idea to open a cinema that shows movies in original language, which I consider the only good option to watch films, because We will talk probably about it later, but you know, actor's voice is an important mean of delivery of the director's idea and of performance, and that's what we do since 2019, already for almost 5 years, and it's working quite well. And I'm happy, though I would be even more happy if we have more cinemas in Kyiv functioning.
Yeah, thank you, Ilya. So we're here trying to see what we can do as a filmmaking society, as a Kyivans, how we can change the situation and to bring more people to the cinemas, and maybe to look what we can do now to enhance the cinema attendance, like as soon enough that we still continue making films and showing them in the cinemas. So we start with Mark. We all have lots of ideas, so Mark was behind the original idea.
Thank you. So Katya, in the projector room, now we need my little PDF presentation. Is it? No, it's not there already. Katya, can you hear me? Yeah. All right. So the Kyiv Cinema Society is something we want to talk about tonight. This is the first attempt, which was 2018 and 2019. And if we go to the next screen, Katya. Ilya already mentioned that in 2018 there was this big closure of cinemas, right? There was Panorama, Kinoteatr Kyiv, Ukraina Cinema, they were all closing. And everybody was crying, right? We were all so angry. We wanted to burn down Klitschko's office, and it was this big kind of like, why? This is horrible. And I started to ask my friends who were activists also, when did you go to Kino Panorama the last time? And people became quiet and said, I don't remember, maybe 2 years ago. All right, so, but then why are you so angry that it's closing down? And they said, yeah, because we need cinema culture. Yeah, but why are you then not going to the cinema? And we understood that this is actually really like a big problem. And I think it's not only in Kyiv, right? It's in the whole world. You know, as Ilya said, since 2006, the cinema tickets sold are going down all over the world. And because we have our beautiful big screens at home and our super nice Apple laptops and everything, so why are people not going to the cinema? And I think in Ukraine it's extra important and also extra crucial because, you know, we need to come together to see each other, to build a society which is strong. So yeah, we all together, then we're a couple of friends. Katya, if you go to the next slide, we met at my living room. I don't know if you can see it a little bit, but there were, I think, 20 great filmmakers and festival makers, and we said we want to create at that time it was called the International Kyiv Cinema Society, and we want to create our own program, and this program is kind of be connected to events. There will be master classes, there will be parties, there will be Q&As, so that you get much more than just watching the film on a screen. You are entering a community and you learn much more about cinema, you meet each other, and maybe you even meet a handsome stranger. Yeah, we were then kind of, you know, wanted to do it right? We were creating a NGO, and started, if you go to the next slide, Katya. So what is it? Oh yeah, this is this answer. Yeah. The cinephiles don't go to the cinema. I think this is a basic problem, right? The cinephile, people which call themselves, they have a great profile on Mubi and so on, and they don't go to the cinema. Next slide, please. So we started, you know, with developing a logo. This was our first logo. And then next slide, please. This was a kind of a technical sketch of how the website should be, and this also shows you a little bit how we, you know, what we wanted to change. We wanted to have eat and drink, a bar, parties, events, a membership. We were very ambitious and had many meetings. We spent a lot of evenings together and talked about the theory instead of, you know, starting. And we learned how difficult it is to basically, you know, to pay the rent for a cinema, how difficult it is to convince the distributor to show the film. And if you go to the next page, Katja, yeah, here you see we had a proper statute. I'm making a little bit fun of ourselves because, you know, we took it a bit too serious and didn't really move forward. And if you go to the next slide, then, yeah, COVID-19 came, invaders came. Sasha Kushinova, she was our managing director. She got killed by artillery. And so the Cinema Society was on hold. And also a little bit forgotten, and I think a little bit, I also need to say that I think Kino 42 also came a little bit out of the Cinema Society idea, because Vasil Grogol, behind the Bursa Cinema, Bursa Hotel, he was also a driving force in our Cinema Society. And he said to you, Ilya, hey, or I don't know the exact details, but we have a nice big room, let's make a cinema here. And you guys actually you bought some of the seats of Kino Ukraina, Cinema Ukraina, and those nice red, those 42 seats at Kino 42 are actually from one of those closed down cinemas. Yes, so but it was on hold, and if we go to the very last, second last slide, Katja, then Chad kicked in. This is the slide. Chad kicked in. Because the Cinema Society was kind of, yeah, dead, and also partly tragically, literally. And, you know, Chad came and said, hey, you know, I think it's not a secret, you spent some time in Lisbon and you were missing Kiev like hell, and then you came back to Kiev a few months ago, your home of choice, like my home of choice, and you will tell us more about your love for the Cinematheque, and I think in Lisbon where you were, there was also beautiful Cinematheque. But then Chad said, you know, was not interested in creating statutes for an NGO and so on. He moved straight forward, and the last slide, this is really the last one, this is the first screening of the Kyiv Cinema Society at Kino 42. So it is alive, it has started. And we hope, we are now 200 members, Chad will tell you more, and I hope you will all join. So thank you very much for listening to this little prologue of the history of the... Chad will.
Very good question. So we have handouts here that I was gonna give to everyone, but I didn't. If you're interested, you can grab one afterwards. There's a QR code. We have a WhatsApp group, we have a Telegram channel, and we have an Instagram. And on those three places, we announce all of our schedule and screenings. But it's not open to the public, and probably it won't be. It's going to be a private society. Everyone who joins knows someone or has talked to us, and they're a cinephile, and they agree to our rules. No cell phones during the movies, you know, no loud talking, and mostly just have a love, you know, a real love for cinema. So, let me first say up front that my reason for doing this is very selfish. Because when I was a kid growing up in Milwaukee in the 1970s and 80s, we had a movie palace. And we would go maybe once a month or once a week to see Jaws, Star Wars, you know, these films of my youth. But this was a movie palace, really, like the kind, one was called the Egyptian, and it had, you know, it had statues of, I don't know, Cleopatra and mummies. And another one was called the Oriental Theater. I'm sure you've seen these glorious gold handicraft and chandeliers. And for me, it was really like a dream. It was really going into a magical place where magic happened. Now, I know this hall is very cozy and comfortable and temperature controlled, but it doesn't really make you feel like you're about to enter a new world, a magical world. So from my earliest memories, I loved these cinematheques, these jewel box theaters. And then when the full-scale invasion happened, I went to Lisbon because I had a friend there. And I immediately discovered that 5 minutes from my apartment, there were 4 movie theaters. A multiplex, a pretty big one on Avenida Libertad that did festivals, a children's theater, and something called Cinemateca Museo. I immediately signed up, and I asked, well, you know, when is the next screening? Well, what are you screening? Well, every day, three films a day. I said, well, how can that be? Every day? Yeah. We have Hitchcock, John Ford, Kubrick. I mean, they were full. So I assumed, oh, this is great. I can just go and check out Hitchcock, or I could check out some other Cassavetes. And the next day I went at like 3 p.m. Cedar, this size theater, sold out, 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. And I looked around, young people, students, old people, expats, locals, and I thought, this must be kind of crazy. I think it was like Buster Keaton or something. I mean, it wasn't like, it wasn't the latest Terrence Malick film. And that happened every time. So I learned to buy my tickets in advance. And always it was sold out. And after the film, half the people would stick around for a Q&A, and then we would all go to the roof, and we would talk, and we would argue, and Portuguese would be very, very opinionated about it. And it was really just absolutely delightful. I fell in love with it. And I actually started working with a good friend of mine to build another similar theater in Cascais, which is kind of the rich expats area of Lisbon, where they have no theaters. So I was doing that, and I had all of this energy and all of these ideas. I also had a film called The Russian Woodpecker that did very well in 2015, 2016, and I went to 50 festivals, many of them the same size of Kyiv, and I fell in love with dozens of theaters that are better classified as cinematecas. They have an educational component, they have a welcoming place, and they have a community of people. A lot of them just come, they don't even look at what's showing. They just trust the programmers, they show up, and they watch great cinema together. So I had in my mind all of these festivals and cinemas that I had seen from my own film on the festival circuit. I had the Lisbon experience, and then I came to Kyiv. I was a little bit, when I was here before, I lived here from 2015 to 2020, I was making movies, so I didn't have a lot of time to see them. I'm guilty as well. But I assumed that there must be a Cinematheque here. There must be a place where I can see great Hitchcock in the original language. And it didn't exist. And I thought that was a crime, because Kyiv is a great city, and it deserves a place where people who love cinema can watch it together. Because I don't have to convince you. Watching on a laptop is fine, but there's nothing like sitting in a big crowd of people that are absolutely engrossed, laughing and crying and all that cliched stuff. That's something that we're losing around the world, and if we want to keep it, we've got to build it ourselves, and we've got to fight for it. So that's why we're here. We're taking the first step, and we want to reach out to people in the community to get feedback, to get inspiration. Ultimately, we're now in stage 1. Ultimately, we want to partner with or buy one of these cinema jewels, and hire a Ukrainian architect, and have more Ukrainian programmers and lectures and everything. But it's going to take a lot of people and a lot of help and a lot of inspiration. So that's why I'm thankful you're here, and we're starting the conversation with you. And I'm also happy to answer any questions or hear any feedback that you might have.
Thank you, Chad. I know, where just before this discussion, all the filmmakers here were saying there's, especially during the first discussion about the distribution of Ukrainian films in the cinemas here, people were saying, most of the people, that they had not enough audience for different kind of reasons, but we also had not enough audience even before the full-scale war, or even before the 2014. So, and the biggest problem is again that people actually stopped going to the cinemas, or they don't want to go to the cinemas because, again, many reasons. One of them, the easy access to the pirating copies online, and the other way is like it's the going to cinema is not a cultural habit anymore. So it's like and as the older a person goes, then less he or she wants to go to cinema. So like all this kind of stuff. So how to get people back to the cinema? I guess it starts from the childhood, right? As you got it. So can you elaborate on that?
Yes, yes, yes. First of all, we don't need 100,000 people coming every month. I mean, we have 42 seats, right? Tomorrow we're sold out. We're showing American Movie, which is a documentary that won Sundance, and it was made by a friend of mine, so that's how we got the distribution rights. We don't need thousands and thousands. We need a core of 500 to 1,000 people. I know they exist here, who appreciate cinema. Number two, we have to give them something they can't get at home. And what can we do? We can provide lectures, we can provide Q&As, we can provide chances to meet the directors, the actors. We can provide, most importantly, everyone is alienated. We are all alienated to some extent. Maybe humanity is always, but we're especially alienated now. Stuck in our, stuck in our apartments or in a bomb shelter or abroad, who knows. If we can provide, and this is what I saw in Lisbon and also in Milwaukee, my hometown. So in Lisbon, what they're providing people, it's not just the movie. I mean, a seat and a screen. I have a big screen at my place too. It's pretty much the same if you sit closer. We have to provide something special, something unique. In my opinion, the most important thing that we can provide is belonging in a community of people who share our passion for something. That's the same reason people love to go to rave parties. They could listen to, or whatever kind of parties, they could listen to music in their bathroom and dance in the shower. People don't want to do that. They want to dance with other people. They want to get sweaty and dance with other people who also love this crazy music. So if we can create an experience, and you can do that with a little bit of champagne, some good food on the roof, good programmers, good content, and it's not just a one-off. My plan is, if you stick with the Kyiv Cinema Society for 20 years, we will watch every single one of the 1,001 movies you must see before you die. Now, this is part of a huge conversation. This is like getting a master's degree times 10 in cinema. So it's not just a one-off thing. It's about committing to a community, and I think that you'll get tenfold back. Our tickets are 100 hryvnias. It's really just to make sure that people don't say they're going to come and then don't come, although they may do that anyway.
I would like to quickly explain how it works. So it's every second Wednesday, right? Every second Wednesday, so 2 times a month. The information comes, like which movie is being screened, comes to a WhatsApp group. And the program is being put together by a curatorial board, I think 6 different filmmakers, from Kyiv. And then the film which is being shown is presented at the WhatsApp group. And I think one other very big thing, beside the champagne you mentioned, and the community feeling, is the Q&A, right? We only had, so the Kyiv Cinema Society had 2 screenings so far. I was only at the first one. The second one I couldn't make it. But what was magical was after the screening, the Q&A, because one of the curators who has chosen the film will host a Q&A, and then you sit together with 42 people, and many of them you don't really know maybe, and you discuss the movie after the film. It's so beautiful, you cannot do that at home in front of your big screen, and I think that's also a very big asset of that idea. And Chad, you said, we just need to sell 42 tickets. but you know, of course, we hope it will become much bigger soon.
How to elaborate? Like
Yeah, so
expand it.
we've got to start one by one. Every person I meet, on the metro or on the corner, I say, "Hey, do you like cinema? Would you like to join my cinema society?" I mean, we just have to build it. I mean, look at one example that came to my mind. 20 years ago, people said vinyl, it's dead. But you know what? It came back. Maybe cinema in a theater will come back. I mean, you never know, but it's going to take time. Again, even if you look at Film Forum in New York or Angelica, I think their lists were always around 10,000 people. So it's not an impossible, we're not trying to put the IMAXs out of business or make $1 billion. We're just trying to find a place for that special group of people that appreciates the life-changing possibility of great cinema. And it's going to take a lot of work. But we already have a good chunk, a dozen or so people that are rolling up their sleeves, and hopefully after this we'll get a few more members, and every day we're growing. And it's, our plan is we're in stage 1 for the first 3 years. We want to build our membership. We want to solidify our relationships with distributors. We want to test out things. Maybe people don't like champagne. Maybe they prefer red wine. I don't know. We're going to go through and test all these things, how to do the Q&As. And then in the second stage, 3 to 5, we're going to start looking for a place to buy, where we can actually build our dream jewel box cinema. I won't live to see it in its peak. This is for the kids who are 5 years old now, hopefully watching cartoons in the original language, so they have a good base of English. It's for that next generation. It won't happen overnight.
Yeah, so this is also like my next question, because like we say, like to have an audience tomorrow, we have to start building it today, and to have a 20 plus someone going to the cinema tomorrow, we have to start working with the teenagers, like at schools or somewhere else. They're like clubs or creating their teens clubs, cinema clubs at schools like today. And as you probably know or heard, that we have a colleague and a friend of ours, Olga Birzul. She has written a book about cinema for teenagers, which also actually gives them like a triggering them, like teenagers, to think like critically about not only about films but also about life and in general. So like the cinema is a good tool for educational tool, or a tool to develop your brains, or like something like this. And I know like that the Kyiv Cinema Society also works with the students of Karpenko-Karava University. Yeah, can you?
Yeah, so we have people in the United States now that are sponsoring. So it's 100 hryvnias per show, but we have people that are buying a year pass for students, and so they don't have to pay anything. So we're doing that, and we have an informal partnership with professors there, so they can send their kids, I mean, whatever, college kids. They can send them to come, young adults, and they can send them to watch great cinema. Again, it's not the same watching it on a laptop. It's got to be on a screen. We also have a partnership with Cambridge English School, and in my opinion, the most fun way to learn English is to watch great, funny movies and fun movies. So they're also sending their students, and yeah, it's a big part. I don't want to have old people like me there. I want to look around, and I want to see kids and people in their 20s.
Yes, and it's of course not focused on English cinema, right? It's just like international cinema in original language. Maybe what's also interesting for somebody, I think in the beginning asked what are the rules. We want to show, but I think you're better in saying like what kind of films we're showing, because we don't want to kind of reflect the latest Palm Lion winners or something, but I think you have You defined it quite nicely, Chad.
Yeah, it's important. I keep saying English, but it's the same for Japanese films. It's the same for Korean, French, Italian. How did we all fall in love with Italian? I'm assuming half the audience here fell in love with Italian at some point. We fell in love with it when we watched an Italian film. And if that was dubbed, probably I wouldn't have gone to Rome and gained 10 pounds eating pasta. I mean, it comes from these early memories of hearing language. So it's not just English. And if we show, we may be able to show Ukrainian and English subtitles for some of these international films. What we're not doing, we are not competing with festivals. There's a very healthy festival circuit in Ukraine, and they show new, great films, Ukrainian films. We don't want to replicate that, and they're doing a great job. So that's not our programming. We also are not competing with Zhovtin. We're not showing the latest new film from Spielberg. We are focused on gems of cinema, artistic gems that are also not boring, and which are generally at least 10 years old and haven't shown recently in Kyiv. So that's about 50,000 films. Let's say if we want to go for masterpieces, it's about 1,000 films. Those are the kind of films we're going to be focusing on. Films that have some historic importance, but also nourish the soul, and benefit by being seen on a large screen. For instance, we were just looking at anyway, big films that benefit from a large screen experience.
Yes, and the first film was Sex, Lies and Videotapes by Steven Soderbergh, and the second film is it called Woman on a Nervous Breakdown, or Woman on a Breakdown by John Cassavetes. Yeah. Woman Under Influence, exactly, by John Cassavetes. So this gives you a good idea a little bit what kind of films we are looking at. Yeah.
Oh, the film I was thinking of, Lawrence of Arabia. Like, that's a film you've got to see on a big screen. Or Fanny and Alexander, the uncut 6 hours version. Like, those are the things I want to show.
Will you provide snacks and intermission?
Of course, of course. When I went to Lisbon, one of the first things I saw, it said Apocalypse Now, noon. I was like, Apocalypse Now, noon? Okay. I went there, they showed all 3 versions of Apocalypse Now back to back. You know, the director's cut, the original director's cut, and we got out at 1 a.m. and it was awesome. We're not planning that. Just don't get scared.
Do you think, like hypothetically, or just a dream of mine, like if someone watches films within Kyiv Film Society and then goes to his or her community and says, "Oh, I watched this or that film, and it's great," maybe to go and watch like a new film in the cinema. Do you think there is a connection between getting love for films and translating it into the modern cinema, like increasing the box office of Ukrainian cinema theaters?
You mean that like a gateway drug, that we show something and then people want to go see more by that director or actor? Yeah, sure. If you think that'll help.
No, I hope so. I mean, for me,
I was not very familiar with Cassavetes, and when it was recommended that we see A Woman Under the Influence, first thing I did was go home and start putting on my watch list all the rest of his films and Jenna Roland's films, because that was unbelievably powerful and good. So yeah, I also try to show like a Kurosawa that's a little bit light, you know, with the hopes that people will then explore, you know, the more intense ones. So. Okay. But yeah, it's all about getting people, and it won't be everyone, but giving someone a taste of something that they didn't know that they loved. and then it becomes a lifelong pleasure.
Yeah, I agree. Ilya, do you think that there might be a connection for us to create this love of cinema, or like to push a little bit for it, and it would increase like audience for watching Ukrainian films in this, and just like to increase the habit of going to cinema, to have a date in the cinema, to have a family event in the cinema, I mean children's films, or not only comedies, but maybe something like more intellectual. What do you think? Is there like any kind of correlation, or is it just my dream?
I mean, you know, there is already a cinema that's working daily and has like 3 screenings a day at least, and festivals and stuff. So it's already functioning, and there is already some audience that I'm seeing and how it's developing, and I can track. Some people come just randomly because they want to see some movie that we apparently screen as a last cinema in Kyiv because we love it, or I don't know, like a Perfect Days, or some Ukrainian film that plays like for 4 months in our cinema, right? Regular cinema would take the film only for 2 weeks and that's it. Just get the best out of box office, and they don't care. And we are trying to keep those people who are interested in film and still are, you know, breaking even and keeping afloat with these people. So I think it's possible, and it's also my story, because I went randomly to Molodys Film Festival in 2003 to watch some film, and I was at school, or I don't know, first year of university, and it was it's bad to say now, but it was Irreversible by Gaspar Noé, and it totally, you know, totally shocking for me, you know, and that's how I ended up in the cinema world. So I totally believe in the life-changing experience of a movie screening, like in original language, which would be followed by Q&A where you can share. So, and I don't know how much it can increase the box office, but I believe that if it changes one person, like, it's already enough.
Thank you. Yeah. So we're open for questions. If you want, if you have it, yes. Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Anastasia, and first of all, I want to thank you all, because I think that's a great ending of the first day of this wonderful event. And this conversation was truly and inspiring. And I have a question. Maybe it is like not very correct, but anyway, I know that in the Zhovten we have like a possibility to have a retrospective role in movies. So I, for example, could go to a Woody Allen movie from 80s, but it's like usual. I can go to this not only twice in a month when it is showed, but much more often, for example. Is there a possibility to make such cases more often in Ukrainian cinemas, not, for example, only in Zhovten, but in any other cities in Ukraine, because I know that sometimes people who are not from Kyiv like jealous because we have such possibilities and festivals, and like people from Lviv or Kharkiv do not have such possibility. I don't know, maybe they do, but yeah, and thank you so much again.
Yeah, it's possible. Like how the cinema market works, there is like a distributor, and the distributor is like a middle entity between the rights owner and the cinema. So he buys the rights, he makes the promotion, and he like takes the risks, you know, because cinema takes the film for the first weekend, and if it doesn't sell, normally it doesn't go any longer. So it's a matter of such an institution or such an entity as a distributor. If there would be more courageous distributors, it might happen more often. Yeah. So that would be my question, my answer. But Chad, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to say that's a really sore point for me because I'm part of a group with lots and lots of expats here. And when we heard Woody Allen was going to be playing at Joveton, we were like, oh my God, this is like a dream come true. And then we discovered that it's dubbed in Ukrainian. And to me, if you haven't heard Woody Allen's voice, you haven't seen Woody Allen. So unfortunately, in that case, I wasn't able to go. But in general, you know, the more retrospectives, the better. I mean, that was a big part in Lisbon as well. And I think it's easier to get rights if you take the whole catalog. So I'm all for that.
Do we have more questions from the audience? Okay, I probably will ask my question. So, do you have any idea of to multiply your experience? I mean, now I see that it's Kyiv Cinema Society, but maybe if you will find some partners in other cities. So, have you think about Kharkiv Cinema Society, Lviv Cinema Society? So, of course I understand all big initiatives, they start from Kyiv, but have you ever talked about possibility to franchise this idea?
You know, I've been to 40 cities in Ukraine when I was showing my films at Ternopil, of course, Kharkiv, Odessa, everywhere. I think every city should have a cinema society, of course. But our focus right now, since we all have day jobs and some of us have kids, you know, our focus now is building and learning from our mistakes, building a strong, healthy community here, trying to find like-minded people that want to join us and help. And then once we have it, once it's running smoothly, why not? You know, why not? Kharkiv, Lviv, I mean, everyone loves film around the world. I mean, there's no place, even in my small town where I grew up, which I like to criticize. They have 2 of these cinematheques. So, yeah, I love that idea.
I'm from Kharkiv Cinema Society. The last 15 years, I made more than 300 screenings in cinema clubs, Cosmofilm. This year I restart my directing activity, but I have a big background of social screenings in Kharkiv, Uzhgorod, and it will be interesting to make connection. Also, especially if you will have invite some directors, maybe Zoom online. If you have some connections, I always try to make this, but didn't make it for this day. So it will be. I will come to you to connect.
Definitely, please contact me. And one thing that you know, don't forget, there's a lot of goodwill in the global film community for Ukraine. So when I reach out to people and ask if we can have rights, almost exclusively. They say, yes, how can we help? And same with asking with actors and directors. So it's not, you know, it's still hard, but there's a chance that we can get these people.
And as you mentioned, you know, inviting or doing Zoom talks with directors, because we are filmmakers running or starting to run a cinema. We know so many other filmmakers around the globe, and you know, Jean Pen was here, you know, 2 years ago. I'm sure he would have, maybe in the beginning of the full-scale invasion was not the right moment, but you know, those kind of situations, right, that we can maybe really get great world-class directors who are passing through Ukraine to come to the Cinema Society and talk with the audience and inspire us. That's part of what we are planning and dreaming about.
I also want to ask Ілько, can you tell us more about Кіноробітня? Because our second big focus of all our panels is try to find some cross-sectoral projects. So, and like it's how you also start not only screen films but also educational program in your cinema. Can you tell us more? What is this? How people could join? Like how often do you have your educational programs there?
Yeah, we started it this year. We organized an educational platform, like a course of Ukrainian film professionals telling their stories as a case studies or as a lecture, whatever. So we already had like Katarina Hornostai, and today, or not today, tomorrow, well, no, this Saturday will be Mikita Liskov, an animator, one of the most awarded Ukrainian animation director, and so people like that are giving the lectures, sharing their experience, and it's not too expensive, and yeah, so we just take it as a regular screening thing. We share the tickets, like we as a cinema share the tickets with the lecturers, and that's how we organized, and it's growing, and I hope it's gonna be even bigger. So normally every week on Saturday or Sunday we have such an event. So
is it free or people could buy
no, of
tickets?
course you have to pay. There is like a discount for students, and it's like we don't screen any film in this case. So we only have educational event for like 2 hours with an access to the lecturer, and it's quite cozy as my cinema is. It's cozy, and it's always a good connection with the speaker. And it makes a lot of I think good a lot of good, and you know I hope you know this opportunity for additional like off class film education will also help to grow up the film industry, and there will be some new people in the profession after maybe this first contact in Kinoробітня.
What is the price of ticket? And also if some people from other city want to join, so or it's accessible only for people who are physically in Kyiv?
Yeah, we don't do anything online. We are considering recording it and probably providing an access to the lectures for some kind of a club or like supporters of Kino 42. We didn't start it yet, so now it's available only offline. You cannot go, like if you are in another city, you have to come here, unfortunately, or fortunately. Yeah, and it costs like 250, 300 hryvnias, which is like a normal ticket for multiplex for a big movie, so it's not really expensive, and I think it's worth the money.
Chad, Mark, I have also a question, like I know and I love myself Cinema 42, but have you ever think about like some bigger cinema, or it's a concept like to have this small cinema? Somehow like I believe that it's much more people, especially 2 times 4 months, like who want to join your society. If you will grow, like do you have planned to have more location or like some bigger cinema?
Yes. So I want to respond to something that someone else asked, and I want to also make an invitation. So one of the greatest experiences I had in Lisbon was the Children's Theater. Also, it's a beautiful jewel box with like a balcony. It's just gorgeous. And I went there to see, it was on the 100th anniversary of the first appearance of Mickey Mouse. And there were about 55-year-olds, and I thought, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare. They're going to be crawling over the seats and throwing up, or who knows. They were enchanted. They were laughing. We watched like 10 of the first, you know, Donald Duck and all this. They loved it. They had a piano there. So I really think that's important. And in Lisbon, they get that. I love that idea of bringing kids in. And there's tons of great stuff. It doesn't have to be Shrek. It can be Buster Keaton. It can be Chaplin. That's number one. Second thing, I want to invite all of you here. Tomorrow we have a screening, but it's sold out, unfortunately. But in about 2 weeks, I'm going to be doing our first Cinema Under the Stars. So at my dacha, which is maybe about an hour away from here, I'm going to have a bus in central Kyiv. I'm going to bring up all of our members, and we're going to sit on these pufikis, bean bags, and we're going to watch some great film, probably like a fun film, with the grandmas and the cows. And all under the stars. And now you can see the Milky Way. It's great. So I hope you can grab one of these sheets. We'll hand them out when you leave. And if you want to join, I'll invite you to that. And that's free. Oh, and we're also going to bring in an American barbecue expert. So we'll have barbecue from my childhood. For vegans, I'll find some carrots or something from the gardens. And to answer your question, we are now in stage 1. Once we have gotten everything professionalized, and we have, I would say in 3 to 5 years, then we will start looking for a larger space. I think, and we'll have to see, but I think around a 200-seat theater, it would be ideal. And I would like to sit with some Ukrainian architects, either renovate a cinema that would match our needs. I would like it to be somewhere that's walkable, accessible by bicycle, that's in a center, that has the ability to have a bookstore and maybe a cafe on the roof, you know. But I think that we can raise, in my past life, I've raised a lot of money for crazy ideas. I have a lot of friends with money they don't know what to do with, because I worked on Wall Street for a long time. And I'm pretty confident that once we have a good business plan, we can find 5-10 million that we might need to build this. So definitely, we'll never forget Kino 42. We'll never leave 100%. But eventually, the goal is to move into a larger space that we can control everything. We may still, I think the war will be over by then, so we wouldn't have to be in the basement. But that's a big bonus of Kino 42, that even when the sirens go, we can keep watching.
Yeah, I think there are 2 ways to grow, right? To grow in space, to have a bigger hall, but also to show more screenings. And at the moment we have 2 screenings a month. Maybe we, you know, I don't know what Ilya thinks. Maybe it can grow into 4 screenings a month. And I think these are maybe the 2 calls for action, right? One call for action is please join the Cinema Society, the Kyiv Cinema Society. It doesn't cost anything. You just, there is a QR code, you scan the QR code, and you join this WhatsApp group, and on the WhatsApp group you get the information which film is going to be screened, how to get your, you know, your reservation. So please join. That's the first simple call for action. Actually 3. The second one is, you know, like you from Kharkiv, if anybody here in the audience, online and so on, is running cinema societies, cinema clubs, anywhere in Ukraine, please connect. Together we will be stronger. And the third call for action is a bit more complex. Yes, Chad, I think it's going to be even sooner than 2 years that we will need to look for a bigger space. And again, right, we don't need to immediately have a 7-day program, you know. It can be an existing cinema which is actually looking for some fresh ideas. Maybe we know there are a couple of cinemas in Kiev which are empty and sad. And so if anybody listening here has some ideas about cinemas which would love to host the Kyiv Cinema Society, please get in touch with us.
I also would like to add that it's all non-commercial at this moment, and this 100 hryvnia is a donation for the humanitarian needs that we can use. And when we're on the stage number 2 or 3, when it's like a big commercial, not a big, but like a commercial theater, then it goes into the bigger, like a more commercial directions, and then it would be a different story. But just I would like to stress it again that it's non-commercial, and that's the rights that Chad receives is also like under this umbrella.
Yeah, I definitely don't want ticket prices to ever be an obstacle. So I think even when we're in a Cinemateca, it's like in Lisbon, I think it was $1.50 to get a ticket. So I think we need to have grants, because I don't want that to be the reason people don't go. And yes, right now we do take 100 hryvnias just to make sure people are actually going to show up. But we give that money to a former director, cinematographer who's now on the front lines and needs some money for EcoFlow or something like that. The last thing I wanted to say is, for those who might be watching this not in the hall, you can find us at KyivCinemaSociety.org, and then if you click join, you can see links to Instagram, WhatsApp, Telegram. So that's the way to find us if you're not here in the hall.
Yeah, I think it's important to say, right, the big vision is Cinematech is nothing commercial. You know, it's nothing to make big money with. It's an NGO. It will be an NGO. It will be an institution which is, of course, needs to sustain itself and pay its bills and pay its crew and stuff and so on. But the vision is, you know, to have cinemas around Ukraine and show amazing program, but you know, for non-profit. That's self-speaking, but I wanted to say that.
Колеги, дуже вам дякую за цю панель. Sorry, I will switch already to Ukrainian. Отже, всі, хто з нами фізично в залі, після завершення ви зможете отримати якраз роздруківки і долучитись до Kyiv Cinema Society. Для тих, хто дивиться нас онлайн, ми додамо посилання на сайт, за яким можна буде зв'язатись і також долучитися. А ті, хто сьогодні беруть участь в церемонії нагородження золотими дзигами за 2021-2022 роки, залишайтесь в залі. Ті, хто не беруть, якщо будуть вільні місця, можна буде зачекати в холі і, можливо, ви зможете зайти в останню хвилину. Я ж хочу проанонсувати події, які у нас будуть завтра, і всіх закликаю приїздити саме фізично. Ми до останнього моменту не говорили про трансляцію онлайн, бо ваша фізична присутність, вона також має свої бонуси, тобто по завершенню панелей ви маєте можливість підійти до наших спікерів, задати якісь питання, пропічити ваші проекти, тож не упустіть цю можливість. І отже, завтра у нас перша панель буде присвячена дистриб'юції українських документальних фільмів в Україні та світі, і ми будемо розбирати саме кейси комерційних та світових прем'єр української документалістики. Після цього ми поговоримо про сценарію та його як рушійну силу кінопроцесу. І з нами будуть ряд дуже цікавих сценаристів на другій панелі. Також ми розберемо, що ж було створено до 100-річчя Параджанова, мистецькі та кінопроекти. І це наша третя панель на завтра. І також остання панель в кінці дня буде присвячена інвестиціям та реаліям фінансування українського кіно. Теж можна буде послухати про кейси проєктів, які були проінвестовані вже за останні кілька років без жодної копійки державного фінансування за допомогою українського бізнесу та міжнародних партнерів. Тож чекаємо вас всіх на другому дні української конференції. Дякую всім, хто долучився, дякую нашим панелістам. Гарного всім продовження дня.